Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best build to beat Crimson Desert from the early game all the way through to the end game. Now, one thing I just want to make clear at the very start of this video is that most equipment is basically just different types of skins. It all comes down to how much you have your weapons upgraded, which is one of the most important things. There are also 4 different skills that I'll be showing you guys that are extremely useful for taking down every single boss in this game. So if you are ever struggling on a boss, all you need to do is find iron and copper ore, which is conveniently right beside our camp. So one thing I do want to mention early on is if you go along the lining of your camp, you can see here many different nodes of iron and copper, which are the main upgrade materials all the way through pretty much the entire game. And you can see here, there's a ton of it surrounding our camp. So my number one recommendation is in the early game, just come look around here. It's going to mark it onto your map. There's the latest update that now makes so that you see all the different types of ore that you're able to find on the wall here. So my recommendation is to jump around, look around. You can use your force palm to break them apart. You don't even need to have a pickaxe. ND copper ore is going to have that nice green appearance to it. Iron ore is going to be more gray. But whenever you find it, I would recommend just upgrading your gear as much as you can. You can use these force abilities to break them open like you see there. And if you have a pet, they're going to pick it up for you. And you can see here, when we go to upgrade things, even at the higher levels, you still need iron and copper ore. So get in the habit of going and running through by your camp and grabbing those, as this will be much better than any other items that you can pick up throughout the game. And the nice thing is, if you need armor right in Hernan, the contribution shop here is going to be one of the best places to get armor in the early game, and it works all the way through the game. And you can literally just keep upgrading this, and it's going to be just as good as some of the best armor that you'll see on other types of YouTube videos. There are other types of armor, and you can always go and find different armor. I'll have 2 of them that I like to use, it linked in the comments there. But honestly, this stuff will do you. The armor set that I like to roll with is the Golden Greed set. I'll have that linked in the comments, alongside the Pirate King hat, as this will detect treasures for you, which is extremely useful to make sure you don't miss them. The feather will light up. And for our weapon, honestly, some of the weapons you get throughout the game as part of the story are incredible. You get some very useful skills off of them. And for a majority of the game, I was using the sword of the wolf here, and you can put different types of abyss gears or relics on them. So you're going to want to come over to the Witch Woods here and visit the witch, because this is how we're able to upgrade our weapons. You can go with creating a socket if the weapon doesn't already have them open, extract abyss gear. It doesn't destroy the gear, it'll just give you the relics or the abyss gear that is on them. And this is the setup that I like to use. Now, none of these require too much work. You get all of them throughout the story, and they're some of the best in this game. Now, what makes them so good, I'm going to break each of these down. As you get them, they're as part of the story. You can just go with the attack speed or attack damage increase abyss gear until you get these. The one that I think is one of the most useful is you get actually early on is the Crow's Pursuit here. This will give you a range attack onto it. There's also one that you can get very early on if you want to, called the Ator's Orbs, which will also show and where to get it. The Spirit's Judgment is another very useful skill. With this one, you're basically able to dodge and get a free attack on enemies, and it's so useful because you have to dodge often in this game. Getting extra damage on that is very nice. And finally, the Gray Soul Howling. This is another one you get as part of the story, and whenever you do the Turning Slash, which is one of the most powerful skills in this game, you're going to be able to do a secondary attack, which does some extra damage. And as for gear that I like to put on the shield here, putting more defense is always a solid idea to throw onto a shield, so that's what I went with there. The bow, I didn't end up using a bow that often, but there are some good bow builds, and I'll be practicing with those. But I found that with this weapon setup and these armor setups, it works best. So this one has the Orbs of Lightning on it. You do get, again, all these abyss gears as part of the main story. The Slashing Reeds and the Karmic Pulse are both fairly nice on the gloves there. And movement speed increases are always a nice luxury to have. And anything that is going to give you spirit regeneration, because you're going to use a lot of spirit in this game. For the helmet, I just have the Pirate King hat again, just to detect treasures. And use the best available earrings until you can get some of the other ones that you're going to get as part of the main story. As you can even just, I had this one the entire game, and it was fine. It gave me a bit of extra stamina regeneration. There are a lot of different items in this game, but the ones that matter most are our armor and our weapons, which are basically just skins. So you can literally use the ones from the start of the game and get the same effects. And for necklace, I just have one that's going to regen spirit again. Spirit is such a useful thing to have. It's basically your mana, so we want to have that as much regeneration as possible. And that Ator's Orb abyss gear I was talking about is very high up in the map. Now you can run here right at the start of the game. You do have to run a bit to the east here before going to west, because if you go really far into the west, you're going to end up falling, you end up not going into the map. So be careful when you're coming up near because you can actually run over here, but this is going to be a giant skeleton in the ground where you can rip a giant sword out of it. And this is what it ends up looking like. We have those crows that come flying off of our swords, so we don't have to really worry about that. If we do turning slash, which is right bumper and right trigger there, you see we have that extra attack that follows up. And again, you get this as part of the story. It's super useful because you can miss the first attack and hit on the second one there. And the last ability is the Judgment Shackle, which you see here. You jump back and a large creature comes slamming down on top of them. This is insanely powerful because it doesn't use Spirit, and you can literally just keep spamming it, which is kind of crazy, but there's a lot of bosses where that's one of the better strategies to use against them. So I would highly recommend using these skills just because of how useful they are. They get a lot of damage output and you don't really have to do much. You're just dodging. So this is one that I'd highly recommend throwing on. And here's what the Ator's orbs look like. So it shoots out these orbs. They'll home in on enemies, and this is really good if you're going against flying type enemies. But I would recommend just using a sword like the one here. I have the Fated Shadow with those three relics that I've shown earlier. Just so powerful to have not just a powerful attack that's going to duplicate it, but also this dodge attack, which can literally just, you can use it as an offensive tool if you wanted to. These all combine together to give you a very varied ability to deal with pretty much every boss in the game. Which brings us to the big part of this build, the skill tree. I'm going to break this down by levels. As you continue to level up, you're going to obviously get more and more of these skills, but there's some that just matter a lot more when we get to the start of the game. So for a brief overview of some of the most powerful skills, turning slash is really good. There's no real invincibility frames in this game besides this attack. This attack makes it so some bosses can't even hit you, and you can attack them, they can't hit you, you deal a ton of damage, and you get that follow-up attack with that relic there. So turning slash, one of the #1 weapons and attacks in the game. Another one that's very powerful later on is blinding flash finisher. So this will oddly enough stun pretty much every boss in the game. It's ridiculous. And then using the blinding flash finisher after you stun the boss, you can just go in and get multiple attacks in against the target, and it does consume your spirit, but is very much so worth using. Another very powerful skill is Nature's Snare. Now, this is one I'd recommend using a little bit later on, but there's a lot of bosses later on that have projectiles. This can help you grab them, and then you can grab Nature's Retribution to have them in your hand and shoot them back at the enemy, dealing extra damage while also protecting you. And some bosses are just going to hit you unless you use this skill, so it's kind of mandatory. Another one I do want to mention is nice. If you like to use a stab attack, you have to press right bumper and the Y. You can actually get it so it ignores super armor, and it actually has a very powerful attack, and you can do it from the air. If you like this style of play, although it's an attack that is easy to forget. And honestly, one of the most overpowered is grappling, especially the lariat attack here, because you are a KO out of nowhere. And what's good about this is enemies that have shields cannot block your WWE prowess. So you can just run in there, grab them. It's going to slam everyone in the area. It does use 60 stamina, but this is very much so worth using if there's enemies with shields. There are some bow builds that are really good, but I'll be doing that in a separate videos. It's not for everyone. Another very powerful skill is Force Palm. This is one you can upgrade and get 3 attacks, and there's some bosses, especially early on, that are actually staggered really easily by the 3rd punch, so using this can be extremely effective. And I would also recommend taking the double jump pretty early on, as mobility is a luxury, and having more of it in the early game is really nice. Another mobility based skill before I get into the build is the Axiom Force. You can use this to give yourself an actual grappling hook, so you don't have to hunt it down. You can actually just get it from the skill tree. But for our first few levels, I would actually recommend to grab a stamina increase pretty early on. It only costs 1 for your first couple, so these are some of the first levels. Stamina is such a very useful ability because we're going to be exploring, but also it helps out with combat. When we run out of stamina, you're just going to take damage, so be preventative with that. Afterwards, I would recommend for like level 3 to 4, taking some of the abilities here with the turning slash and taking the proficiency here. This is just such a useful skill. We basically want to upgrade this as early on as possible, as it's going to be our best use for our spirit. For levels like 6 and 7, I would actually recommend going with like a health increase. Health doesn't end up being as impactful as spirit, to be honest. So like 1 increase of spirit, because it does scale up a little bit quicker. The second upgrade costs 2 abyss artifacts, so I would recommend going with an increase to your health and stamina. You can put another into your health whenever you need it. But one of the next skills that we want to grab is focus. The reason being, it's a prerequisite for one of the most powerful skills in this game. But focus is how we get our stamina or our spirit back. So you press both control sticks together. There's a lot of puzzles that'll actually get solved by using this, and you can also force enemies back. You do have to get this up to level 3, and this is one that I'd recommend doing because you can use this to fade attacks with your parry. So if you go into focus, you can parry enemies out of it, and it's actually very generous, and you can also force them back. But this is so that we can take, by like level 11 here, blinding flash finisher. The earlier on you get this, the better, because it's just so insanely powerful. So what you do is you press both the right bumper and the right trigger together. You blind the enemies, and you can see there, they end up getting stunned. You can then go into this attack here, and it pushes enemies back. It's absurd how strong this is, and then you can always just use your focus here by pressing both the control sticks to go into this mode here, and then you can parry things like that. It's actually ridiculous how powerful this is, because you just have so much combat versatility by blocking projectiles and then stunning anything that's in your face. And this is such a useful skill because there's a lot of bosses that just do the exact same thing that all those enemies did, where they get stunned out of whatever they're doing. Now, the timing for it is a little bit tricky because you can sometimes do the shield attack, but pressing them together at the same time is what you're looking for. And some of the harder bosses and enemies to deal with in the game will get comboed by using the blinding flash finisher into the turning slash. So getting these upgraded as soon as possible is priority. It may feel a little cheesy using the blinding flash finisher, but I assure you there's some bosses that are cheesy towards us, so don't feel bad about it. Now, after this, I'd recommend grabbing grappling. Now, this is so good. You press Y and B or X and B, and you can actually use this to deal with large groups of mobs, which happens very commonly in this game. Going first with something like the throw attack's really nice. You can throw enemies. This is really useful because throwing them off of cliffs just deals with them immediately. That's something that we really like to do. But we want to get here to Lariat. So this is level 13. With this, taking the Lariat, this allows us to now just slam an enemy into the ground. And you could go with the giant swing. There is abyss challenges for this where you just swing an enemy around. You could hit enemies with enemies. It's a hoot and a holler, but Lariat is honestly the one that we do want to grab here first. After this, we're going to be running low on stamina. So the next level, I'd recommend putting 1 point into there. They start to cost 2 at this time. We'll also put an increase to the health at this level just because it's not going to give you a massive boost to health, but it is enough to keep us alive, especially as you're going through some of the harder bosses. Now, after this, I would actually recommend to come over here and take forward slash. Pressing and holding the right trigger gives you an attack, and we want this one to be strong as possible because when we're low on spirit, this is our fallback attack. Just pressing and holding this, it's going to have the crow attack come off as well, and Ator's Orbs is activated by this. The proficiency will give you a lunging attack forwards, and sure hit is also meaning that we can't miss with this attack. Super useful because there's so many bosses that just want to avoid us as much as possible. And at this point, we're going to be running into enemies that are going to be annoying to deal with. So I would recommend coming down here, keen senses, going with the parry, the block, and the dodge here. These are all going to be nice things to have. So I'd recommend grabbing the parry and the dodge here first. And then afterwards, we're going to grab the nature snare. So this will cost 2 spirit per second, but this is very much worth it because when there's enemies with projectiles, some of them are going to hit us unless we use cover, and sometimes you just can't run to cover. Nature snare requires you to press both control sticks and then start rotating your right control stick. It is a little bit weird to feel at first, but afterwards we want to take the nature's retribution because after you do that and grab all the projectiles, you can then press the right control stick and shoot them at bosses. There are like 3 or 4 bosses in this game that's how you fight them. Otherwise they one-shot you. So you want this. It's also nice to take the nature snare because you can press the left control stick to hold energy in place, so you don't have to, you can literally just pop this up and have it in an area and you don't have to keep maintaining it. So that is nice to grab as well. Now, Nature's Echo is one that you want to grab whenever you can, but you're going to have to learn these naturally. So they're good because they duplicate your attacks. Very powerful. And at this point, I'd recommend actually taking a couple increases to Spirit till it goes to the ×3, just because the more Spirit we have, the more skills we're able to use, and Spirit's one of the best things that we can actually spend our energy on or use skills for. So afterwards, if you do need a bit of extra mobility at this point, we're like level 30 here, I'd recommend grabbing the double jump. This is really nice for the extra mobility, but also the Axiom Force aerial swing here. It only has 100 stamina cost, they end up reducing it. You can go with both of these here because you can do an attack with it, which is really nice. And then at this point, we'd want to take a couple more points into our stamina. Now, this has a 3 times cost, and I think it's worth it at this point just because of how good stamina is for us. And after this, I like to take spinning slash. So this gives us an attack that we jump back. Right bumper plus A, and you can also get proficiency as well. It's really nice for extra mobility. I also would recommend grabbing the stab skill here. Just getting the rend armor for ignoring super armor is really useful. There's certain enemies in this game that get destroyed by stab, and you actually do need to use stab as part of the story and level it up, so that can be really useful. And we'll also level up and max out our grappling skill here. So at this point, we're around level 50 or 50 Abyss Cores. Putting a few more points in your health is really useful. A couple more points in your spirit. These are ones that are super, super useful to have. You can also go and increase the Force Palm here. As mentioned, it's going to help you with staggering certain enemies. But the Blinding Flash finisher kind of does the same thing, but easier. And they both use up your spirit. So it's your choice there, what you want to roll with. Also, not a bad idea to take the unarmed combat. This will just give you a few extra attacks with your right bumper. Use these whenever you're running low on stamina. And as you progress past level 60, like I've got 80 abyss cords here, you want to basically have your stamina up. As stamina is going to be the #1 skill. Once you get to 7, that's kind of like the ideal number to shoot for. Get your spear to level 6 here, and then the health can be around like level 5 or 6. There actually are some bosses that require you to have it up to level 7, so you could put more points in your health. There is one story mode section, although I don't like to have it up that high, because if you have your armor up good enough, you're going to take less damage. So you can put those final points into like your stamina here just to get yourself some more mobility. So the thing is with combat, turning slash is going to be like one of your most #1 attacks that we're going to do. And also if you run out of spirit, you can just press and hold the right control stick. As you can see there, we got the crows that are just hunting down enemies. If you have an enemy that has a shield here, go in and do this attack on them and you'll just drop them. So for normal mobs, it's really just seeing what the enemy you're going up against has. If it's a shield, this attack you can see can knock down others, so you can get free attacks in on the others that have shields. Otherwise, you can use this movement here to give you that extra attack, turning slash, and then the blinding flash finisher. These 3 skills are like our most impactful, especially into bosses as well, because you can just go blinding flash, follow up, chase them down. It works all the way to the very final boss in this game, so that is something that's super useful. It's basically just spamming these skills here. Some of the harder bosses won't really let you do anything else but that, so that's kind of why they're so useful. Blinding flash will give you an opener when you don't have it. Turning slash is there to give you invincibility when there's an enemy that's maybe attacking and you want that invincibility that it grants you. And then this attack here when you're dodging to throw that large guy to slam down is very useful. So yeah, this build will help you easily defeat Crimson Desert. Let me know if this video is useful. Hit the subscribe button below if you found this useful, and we'll catch you all in the next one.